Wow, it's been a while since my last video, and today we are going to be taking on 2 dungeons in this Kalimdor map. Now first, before we do that, I want to do some loose ends kind of thing. You see all the castles there on the map? Those are all areas that I have not yet completed. Even though I've said I've completed the zones, still a few areas I've missed. One of them is this camp that's literally right outside my base, but it has a lot of high-end mobs in it, which is why I haven't beaten it yet. Even with the gear that I have, it's still pretty tough. Like, I actually died a few times. Some of my companions went down and I had to pick them back up, but this area is loaded with really good loot. This is actually where I found my very first star metal weapon. I also found this bag of loot here. This is part of the new purge system where you gather treasures, and the more wealth that you accumulate, the stronger the purge will be. Now, unlike the other treasures and trophies that I've gotten through this playthrough, I can't just stick this in my bag and then run home. This you actually have to carry all the way to your base. Luckily, I'm not too far, but now you're going to be able to get a sneak peek into my fortress. This is the one that I've been building kind of off-stream or off-recording in my downtime. The last time you saw it, I was still kind of building up the walls. Right now, the walls are all done. I'm just kind of furnishing it, and eventually I'm going to have to fill it with guards and warriors in order to protect it, and later on I will have an episode dedicated to the purge attacking this base. Now going upstairs, because I'm not going to give the full walkthrough just yet, I head into the treasure room where I place down the bag and it will add to my treasure. Heading back out into the Barrens, I am actually just above Ratchet right now. This is the spot in the actual World of Warcraft where you would get the Warlock Mount. It's like that little tower that's kind of right there. I removed the castle because I beat the few Sumerians that were just sitting there. Now this boat here, the companions that I have absolutely refuse to follow me onto here, so I am all by myself, and it doesn't help that this boat is filled with enemies. A few of them I can take on. Sometimes I can kill the couple that are on deck, but the ones below deck are soon alerted and they all come up, including a mini-boss. It actually gets a bit too overwhelming, even if I try kiting them or backing away, healing, and jumping back in. At one point, some of my companions do teleport to me and try to help, but they are just completely demolished by the amount of damage being given out there, so I have to pull back. I managed to get back right on time, get my companion back up, and I leave heading back to my base to let them recover. Now, while I was back at my base, refreshing my potions, getting some more food, bandages, and so on, I realized that I had a ton of these plans. I actually don't know how to pronounce it because it's written in German, but they're kind of like war plans. Now, I do remember that if you turn them into Ragefire in Orgrimmar, nearby where Thrall is, he can give you different items, such as schematics or jewels. Now later on, because I didn't know what the jewels were for, I found out you can turn in jewels for Horde tokens, or Alliance tokens if you're of the Alliance. And those tokens are how you get the mod-based mounts, which we'll figure that out much later, not in this episode. But now I'm going to be heading into Northwatch. Now, I thought I had done Northwatch already. Apparently not. I was planning on saving this location as well as other Greater Alliance areas for a separate episode, but I might as well just take this one out now so I can say I have finished the Barrens, with the exception of that one boat, but we'll get to that much later. Anyway, as I'm exploring, I find this little portal. Now, it's not uncommon to find portals that teleport you around the map. I decided I was going to check out the portal after the fact just in case it sent me somewhere weird. So I go into the first tower there, I take out all of the enemies, and then I move on to the next one. If you've done Northwatch before, you know how it is. Once I finish all 3 towers, I head back to the teleporter, and it sends me all the way to Astronar, which actually has other portals to take you all around the map. So I'm guessing this is going to be the central hub for the Alliance. Even though Theramore is the main, I would guess, city, Astronar would be the primary hub since it has all of these teleporters everywhere for, the Alliance players. But you can use it even if you're Horde Horde, or if you join the Brigand faction. I even check out another portal which takes me all the way to the Dwarven area in the Southern Barrens. Now, I've already completed this area before, but I decided to just clear it out once more since I was already here. This area is bugged. It was bugged on Season 1 as well, and basically the enemies have a weird time kind of finding the way around the area. You can see them just kind of standing there. It's the same with the companions as well. I think it's just the model of the fort itself, like they're standing on it and they don't know how to path through it. Anyway, once I make my way outside to the quarry, the enemies are now working again, though these are much weaker than the other ones, so I was able to clear it out. I take out the castle icon on the map, signifying that I have finished it, and I head on to the next area, which is gonna be, you know what, I actually don't remember what the name of this little mountain is called, but it's where you would go for the demons in the Northern Barrens. You know, it's got that like kind of demon pool when you go up there, and it's got like a haze. It's near the Harpies. Anyway, I don't remember what it's called, but it's got these demon creatures from the Isle of Sipta DLC. I don't know what these guys are called either because I didn't play much of Isle of Sipta. I played maybe like half of it, and I go in and I clear them out. Now, these guys are a little bit more difficult than regular NPCs, which is why they have that single skull right under their health bar. So I try to take them on one at a time. These leeches are not too bad. They also drop these like blood bags. I'm assuming that's for a type of crafting recipe, but I'm not sure what it is. It's probably an Isle of Sipta DLC item as well. Now then, running through the Barrens, you can get a good shot there of Dalaran, which is pretty cool. But I do head to the Harpy area. Now, these have different models than the last time I played. The last time it had just the generic bird creature that you would find in the regular Exiled Lands map. This time, they have new models also from the Isle of Sipta. Now, these guys I'm more familiar with because I did do this dungeon, and you could find the boss battle of that dungeon as the main Harpy Lieutenant. Now, she's not too difficult. She does have a couple of knockdown abilities and a laser beam, which I didn't really film it, but once she goes down, I progress into another area of Stone Talon Mountains. Now, we've already cleared out Stone Talon Mountains, but there is one area left that I have not done, and that's going to be the Brigands' main base of operations. Now, you could say that would have been Brackenwall, but I think this right here is technically their capital because there are a ton of merchants around. So if you're of the Brigand faction, this is where you would go, but because I am on the Horde and the Alliance side, can also fight these guys. And it's got a good mix of different enemies, from barbers, as you see there, Amazonians, which are not quite from either game, but then you also have ogres and other creatures as well. Just like that one area that I told you about that was next to my base, this area is really dense with enemies, and they took down my followers really quick. Like, I had to pick them up several times, pull back, heal them. It got to a point where I was completely out of potions. At least my followers were out of potions and bandages, and I had to give them some of my rations in order to heal them up. Though once they were healed up, we went right back in and continued to chip away. Now, the respawn time is about 5 to 10 minutes, I believe, so we still had enough time to finish up what was left over in this town, and I made my way to the merchants. Now, they basically have the same kind of stuff that you would find at the other towns, though you do find some mounts. Now, I could buy one of these mounts if I had enough money, but I do not. And as you see there, you could turn in plans and jewels for the various coins. You could do that too with the Horde and the Alliance, but that won't be until later. Now then, I'm gonna head to one final area before I head into the dungeons, and that's gonna be the arena inside of Orgrimmar. Now, if you played World of Warcraft, you should remember this arena in particular, as not only is it where the Brawlgar arena is, but also in Wrath of the Lich King, this is where Thrall fought Garrosh. Here, you have mini-bosses. Now, it seems to be that they are randomly spawned, because the last time I came in here, it was a female warrior with 2 pet wolves. This time around, the wolves were dead, and it was just the boss battle, which was a completely different one to the last time I fought him. But finally, it was time to take on my first dungeon. Well, technically, it would not be my first dungeon, as I did do the Stockades dungeon, which is in Theramore on this map. That's how I got the armor that I'm wearing right now. But with this armor, it will be easier to take on these stronger level dungeons. This one right here is Ragefire Chasm. Now, the outline of the dungeon is relatively similar to the World of Warcraft one, a little bit different, but you can pretty much tell where you are. There are about 3 bosses in here. One of them actually is pretty tough, you'll see pretty soon. Now, everything in here is an elite because it's supposed to mimic an actual dungeon, so it's a little bit harder. The loot that they drop is not really that good, but you do find some decent things in here. It really depends on what kind of creature you're fighting. Now, this guy is supposed to represent the Trog boss, and these are creatures from the Isle of Sipta. I don't really know what they are called, but he does drop a couple of items that I'm willing to take, such as the scrap pieces, which are used to make a really cool armor set in the Exiled Lands map, but I haven't figured out a way how to unlock it on this map. I might end up using a cheat code, but we'll get to that if I cannot find it. Now then, as we continued on, I find these giant creatures. I also assume these are from the Isle of Sipta map, as I remember seeing them, but I don't exactly remember where. These guys are pretty tough, but they're really only as tough as the ice giants, which is what the model is kind of based off of. They also can swing their weapon and do conal AoE abilities, so you do have to watch out for that. But with my group of followers, I take them out really quick. If you're by yourself though, you might want to stick to 1 or 2 at a time. The next boss battle is basically just a bigger variant of what I was already fighting. He pretty much does the exact same abilities, though he does have 1 or 2 additional abilities, mostly AoE. You can avoid it, and really the damage is not too bad. It's just most of my guys are already weak from fighting everything else, including the previous boss, and have had no time to recover. So after I take down that boss, I give them a moment to recover, because the next boss, which is supposed to represent the demon in the center of the giant lava pool in Ragefire Chasm. Now, this guy has an ability that I wish I would have known beforehand, which is basically a knockback, and you're gonna see it here in a second. He uses the knockback ability, which pushes me right into the lava, and it essentially just one-shots me. Now, normally in dungeons, it lets you respawn back at the start, but this time around, I chose to respawn back home. I waited a while for my followers to teleport back so I can regather them instead of trying to find them in the dungeon itself. It also would have been more dangerous for them if I had done that. So I spent that time making more potions and bandages. You can see now they are full, and I ran back to the boss. But this time around, I pulled him back to the wall. That way, if he does that ability again, it won't throw me into the lava, and it'll throw me into the rock wall instead. This was a much smarter move, as this time I was able to survive him and take him down, though he still had a lot of health that we had to chip away at. Now, he doesn't really drop anything that exciting. Some items are more valuable than others. He dropped a legendary weapon, an Ember Heart, but then he dropped what I really wanted, which is the insignia. That is the turn into the quest at Thrall. If you turn it in, Thrall will gift you some money. The back of the dungeon didn't really have much left in there. There was a mini boss that I killed, but he didn't really drop anything that I needed. The chest really just had some decayed Alarium, which is kind of useless for what I'm doing. Now I went into Thrall's lair and I turned in the quest item. After that, I headed out to Skull Rock. Now, Skull Rock is just a cave in World of Warcraft. Here, it's been turned into a dungeon. Now, this is a fully custom dungeon. It's not based on any existing dungeon from World of Warcraft, so that makes it extra exciting. But it's also going to be more difficult because there is no map, unlike the other dungeons that had a map that kind of would tell you where the different bosses were and how to get out. This one has no map, so I won't be able to figure my way through the different areas. Now, really, This dungeon seems to mostly feature all of the leftover creatures from the Isle of Sipta that didn't really have their own areas in the world. As you see there, a lot of snake men, which snake men I think I could find in the world itself, but you also have the demon dogs, which I've only found one other spot, and you also have the cursed werewolf creatures as well, which you'll see pretty soon here. You also have the original Exiled Lands harpies, which you would think those would be where the harpy area was earlier that we saw, while the Sipta ones would be here with all of the other Sipta creatures, but I guess not. And it makes it worse that this is the world boss version, so it took me a while to take him out. Now then, further in, I find more Isle of Sipta creatures, mostly like the mushroom zombie creatures that you can find, which I don't ever remember fighting them in the Isle of Sipta, but I do remember fighting them in the Savage Wilds modded map. Now, I wasn't going to go much further into the dungeon. It's actually not that big, and really this is the last spot for me to finish, which has the werewolves. Now, further in, you can see that flaming one in the back. That one is obviously the boss battle. It takes me a minute to get to them because these werewolves are a lot stronger than just regular werewolves or were-hyenas, and the boss has even more health as well as some burning abilities, which take a while. You can also see that one werewolf that kind of looks weird. That's like the original werewolf model before they made new ones later on. That's also the boss of the Midnight Grove dungeon in the Exiled Lands. That's a really cool dungeon, but the werewolf boss is kind of shitty if you ask me in terms of how he looks. I wish they would replace it with one of these models instead. Anyway, we get to the burning werewolf boss, and it takes me several minutes to take him out, but he eventually falls. Again, not really any good loot for me, so this dungeon was kind of a bust, but it still looked really cool in order to explore it and see what was within. But that's pretty much going to be the end of this episode. We're going to continue on this adventure as I've got several more episodes planned out, from Warsong Gulch all the way into Ashenvale, the Purge system that I told you about, and a few other episodes that I have planned. So until then, stay tuned for the continuation of Season 2 of Kalimdor Exiles, and I will see you next time.